everyone, welcome to my little corner of various things. I asked a bunch of you if you guys wanted to see a review on my Mythic tale by Finfolk Productions, so let's get into that. I have Luna right here. She's a aqua blue Mythic tale by Finfolk Productions. She's part of the first round of the second generation. I've had her for a little over a year. I got her on August 7th of 2017. So I've had her for a year and a few months. And I've used her, I wouldn't say lightly, I wouldn't say heavily either, but I've used her pretty well. But I do want to get into a few things that I had to modify, as well as my opinion on her. So let's get started. The first thing I've had to modify is the top of the tail. I had to add some fabric to the very top where it would be on my stomach, just so it doesn't look blatantly sewn on with the scales, because I would get a lot of kids saying, "Hey, looks like you're sewed on," and so that was one of the things I used to really kind of mask that. But I also have a kind of like a skirt, but also kind of like a girdle. I'll show it to you that I wear over her, just to like mask the back of the tail and everything, and like the seam between my flesh and the top of the tail. And I feel that it kind of just helps it out a little bit, realism-wise. For the monofin, the monofin started to get really tight around my feet to the point where it would actually cause circulation. I would get terrible calluses, not only on the tops of my toes, but on the heels of my feet as well, because of how tight it was and all the friction, and I couldn't really get my feet into it very easily either. So I modified that, and I had to cut the pockets, and what I did is I cut it in half, and then I took my X-Acto knife and I made little tiny like slits in each side, and then what I did is I took elastic, like a thick elastic band, and I threaded it through and I sewed it together on both sides so that it has a new backing to it and it's a lot stretchier, and now I can also wear neoprene socks in it as well. I have big feet, so I had a feeling that would be an issue with the monofin, but it works out better now that I put the elastic on it. Now, getting into the rest of the tail. Let's start with some pros. Pros being it swims beautifully in the water. I absolutely love the colorations, the iridescence of the fluke and the fins. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love the color of the scales. They're absolutely vibrant and shiny in the water, and I get so many compliments saying, "Oh my gosh, it's so realistic." You know, a lot of people absolutely love it. Now there's some cons, and it gets me kind of torn on the tail a little bit, because it's so beautiful, it's so elegant. I don't mind carrying it around in my little bag or anything, but there are some drawbacks to her. So first of all, I had to get a new zipper, because apparently the zipper was a big issue with the generation 1 and 2 of the tails, and so I asked for a new zipper and they sent it to me free of charge. So I added the new zipper on and it works fine. Another thing is the Velcro on the back. It doesn't last. It doesn't work at all anymore. So what I did is I added little snap buttons just so that it closes and that overlap flap actually stays together when I'm swimming in the water. Another drawback, the scales are absolutely gorgeous, but most of my scales are now see-through because the paint just completely comes off of them. And as somebody who works with resin, there are ways to get this beautiful coloration and style without having to paint the scales over top, and it also helps prevent the color from fading and going away. Yeah, you might need to do some changes and some updates to the scales here and there, but there are better approaches to the actual scale coloration. And then on top of that, the way the scales are sewn on, they're sewn on in one long strip, so if one falls off, you should expect that the entire strip will fall off, unless you tie it off if you notice that one falls off. So because of that, I went through and I took a little E6000 and I put a little glue where my tail gets the most wear and tears. So like the very top of the stomach, all throughout the butt region, and the base where my feet would be on the bottom of the tail, just to have that little extra security. But another thing on the scales is that there are definitely not enough on the tail, and I've seen that as an issue. A lot of people have mentioned that when it comes to the Mythic tails. Another thing is that there is some, like, the silicone, the coloring is coming off, and that is to be expected. I mean, with some wear and tear, you know. But I kind of wish they wrapped the edges a little more. If they added colorant to the edge of the tail, it would actually wrap it completely and be more protected, as opposed to just coloring the top, the bottom, and the sides. The neoprene material that they use as the body, it's pretty good material. It does soak up a lot of water, so when you come out of the water, it's very heavy, on top of the fact that it holds water. There are drainage holes, which are awesome, and it drains the tail, but the fabric holds a lot of water. On top of that, I've noticed that the fabric around the ends is starting to like chip, and like fray almost. It's really weird. I've never dealt with this type of fabric before. Overall, I do like my tail. I love her a lot, considering she's my only tail currently, and I am making another one of my own creations. I'm making my tail with the problems of Luna in mind, in the ways that I'm going to be using a monofin that has clip-on straps on the back, so one, it'd be easier to put on, get your feet inside, and wear neoprene socks with them, and two, I wouldn't have that issue of worrying about it being too tight or too loose. I can adjust it. I'm also making it with the thought in mind of putting it on by myself, where Luna, yes, I could put her on by myself, but it takes me a while, and it's not always guaranteed that I can put her on by myself. Most of the time I do need a little assistance, unless I have like 20 minutes to just soak in the water and let her expand a little bit, and then pull a zipper up with a lanyard. Oh, I also added, there are a few other things that I added. Basically, I took the straps off of an old bra that I had that I don't use anymore, and I sewed it on so that if I am putting it on by myself, or if there is somebody who is helping me but is unexperienced in helping me put Luna on, they can clip the straps together so that it holds the tail together so they can easily zip it up for me. I also had to take the little metal clasp and replace it a couple of times because it wasn't sewn on very securely. Also, I added more scales on the back flap so that it camouflages a little more, because again, there aren't enough scales on the tail, so it's harder to really camouflage it. But again, overall I do enjoy my Mythic tail. It is my first tail, so I don't really know 100% what to expect when it comes to silicone and neoprene, but with Luna I am learning. And with the tail that I'm making, I'm also learning. Like I said, I'm making my tail with the problems of Luna in mind, so I'm making my tail so that I can put it on by myself. There won't be a zipper. There will be the monofin with the straps. The tail that I'm making, I'm overly scaling it, so I have more than enough scales on there, so even if it does stretch, the scales will cover each other. I'm also going to be using a thin neoprene fabric underneath. Once it's all scaled, I'm going to put that underneath and sew it there so that even if the scales do move, you can't really see through it. And it'll be flesh toned, so it'll blend easier with my stomach. I'm also going to be adding an attached gap wrap, and that's where I'll be attaching the pectoral fins. I think that would look really cool, and like they'll start off see-through and then I'll color them in towards the tips. You'll see. I'm excited for it. But so yeah, that's my review of Luna. So now you have my pros and cons, and hopefully it'll help you better prepare yourself for your Mythic tail. Thank you for joining me in my corner, and I hope you all have a